bill is set down for committee stage next sitting day. Call on Government Order of the Day number 2.
Television New Zealand Amendment Bill, committee stage.
I declare the House in committee for consideration of the Television New Zealand Amendment Bill. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker. Members, the House in committee on the Television New Zealand Amendment Bill, and the question is that Part 1 stand part.
Mr. Chair.
Honourable Jonathan Coleman.
Mr. Chair, it's a pleasure to be able to take a call in the committee stage of this, the Television New Zealand Amendment Bill, which brings to a head really our election promise around the repeal of the Television New Zealand Charter. And of course, Television New Zealand had been labouring for quite some time under the last government under what was effectively an unworkable dual mandate. And what we said we would do when we came in, that we would actually give Television New Zealand a clear and honest path ahead. And I think when you look at what's happened with the Charter, people would really struggle to tell any difference in terms of the content on Television New Zealand before the Charter, during the Charter and after the Charter. So really it was a fig leaf covering up a lot of sins which had been laid out by the last Labor government. They had 9 years to get their house in order in terms of public broadcasting. Probably sins wasn't the right word there. It was modestly covering what was masquerading as public broadcasting under the last government. But look, the reality is Television New Zealand has been 93% commercially funded for many, many years now under this government and the last government. The last government tried to pretend that they had a public broadcaster. In actual fact, they had a publicly owned broadcaster, which at times shows public broadcasting content, and it will continue to do so once the Charter is repealed. So, Mr. Chair, this is a very honest and straight-up bill. It removes the Charter and it replaces it with a set of statutory functions. And the statutory functions, Mr. Chair, are that Television New Zealand is to be a successful national television and digital media company, providing a range of content and services on a choice of delivery platforms and maintaining its commercial performance. And I think, Mr. Chair, it would be very hard to argue credibly against that. Furthermore, in carrying out its functions, TVNZ must provide high-quality content that is relevant to and enjoyed and valued by New Zealand audiences, encompasses both New Zealand and international content, and reflects Maori perspectives. And also, Television New Zealand services must include the provision of channels that are free of charge and available to audiences throughout New Zealand. There's also a further part to this bill which makes available previously locked up works in the Television New Zealand archives, works that were made before the Broadcasting Act in 1989. Up until this point, there's been a very complex process that has to be gone through if those works are to be seen, involving basically contacting every single person on the rolling credits at the end of shown at the end of each episode, which proved unworkable and meant that that material was never ever seen. So this is going to replace the current arrangements with a scheme whereby a reasonable attempt can be made to notify people involved with the production. They can come forward, apply for compensation for the program to be shown. If they don't come forward, the program still can be shown. So really, it's bringing out a very workable scheme to unlock the Television New Zealand archive. The public are going to benefit from this, certainly going to be good for the producers, for the actors, and we think it's a very practical way forward. So really, when you look at what we've done, we've had a very clear, honest approach to public broadcasting. We've maintained the $231 million a year that goes into public broadcasting, and we've said, well, look, there's a number of ways you can provide public broadcasting. The New Zealand On Air model is an excellent model. We think it's best if we put the money through the New Zealand On Air model, so that the best productions get a chance to get seen on the screen and the public benefits. And let's face it, the public today, Mr. Chair, they don't mind where they watch the content, they just want to have access to the content. And I think I'd be very surprised if anyone in this House were to disagree with us on the point that the New Zealand On Air model does a great job for New Zealand and has provided great content on the screen for New Zealanders for many, many years. So This is just the next step, Mr Chair, in repealing the Television New Zealand Charter. What's next is going to be the third reading. It'll be very interesting to see if Labour, in their broadcasting manifesto, are going to say that they're going to reinstate the Television New Zealand Charter. I won't hold my breath. I think they'll talk big on this, but I don't think we'll actually see any action because they had 9 years to do something. If they really wanted to turn Television New Zealand back into a full state-funded public broadcaster, they had the chance to do that. If they want to do that at this election, they should say so, but they should also say where they're going to get several $100 million a year to run it from. I commend this to the House.
Claire Curran.